I have here another Luger holster. This one says Gustav Reinhardt, Berlin, 3111. That's the only markings I see on it. I believe the customer said this was a police holster as well. But it might be like military police. Anyway, this is the task at hand. The toe came apart on this one. So I started, it was probably from here to over here. So it wasn't really a lot, but when I started to pick the stitches out, it started popping threads all the way up to here. And then it stopped. So, and then all the way up to where the magazine is, or the magazine pouch is connected up to here. So hopefully that's all there is. But when it starts popping stitches, I'll usually go until it stops, because that just means that's rotten thread. It needs to be fixed. So that's where it stopped. I think we're good. That is where I am going to start my stitching. I'll start on this side and I'll stop under the magazine pouch, because that's a good place to hide my my knot when I have to tie off at the end. It's a good place to hide it. So I'm just going to keep going here. When you're doing a repair like this, you need to go along and you need to pick out all the old stitching. It has to come out. Got to get rid of it. All that old thread, you can't sew over it. It looks bad. It's not in good form. And I take pride in my work, so I make sure that I take the time to get rid of all the old thread. And it's just time consuming is all. That's kind of all there is to it. You gotta take that time. I take pride in my work. I haven't had any complaints yet. So I don't like doing this because I just don't. I gotta sit here with a sharp pick and be very, very careful. And I just, I don't want to, I don't want to do any damage to the holster. And that's kind of, it's always in the back of my mind that I could. But all I really need to do is I need to get under that thread and lift it up a little bit. And then I can usually get a fingernail under it and pick it right out. And that's all I do. And I just, I just cleaned up another pile that I had here, and it's just little pieces. That's all you can do. So I'm going to keep going here, just picking this thread out. That's all I can do. I'm not going to make you watch. It's going to probably take a while. Good 15-20 minutes anyway. So I'll be back. Hey folks. So I talked to my customer today. As I was picking out the threads, which is just one of those tedious things that we have to do. It's part of the game, part of the work. The threads just kept popping as I was going. I'd separate a little bit, and the threads just kept popping. So I contacted my customer and I explained the situation to him. And he was very understanding. I was prepared to just stop, stitch up the toe, and call it good. But I wasn't real comfortable with that, and I wanted to talk to him and let him know that I'm not real comfortable with that. So what I'm going to do is, after talking to him, explaining the situation, he gave me the okay. Any kind of estimate that I had given him, I figured it would take me 45 minutes to an hour to do what little needed to be done, was just stitch around the toe. Not a big deal. This is quite a lot more work. So I need to make a proper repair, and to do that, I just have to take it apart and do it. The stitching on this side, it popped up until here. And I got up to there, and it stopped there, stopped popping there, because the thread here is in good shape. This is strong thread around the magazine pouch. Unfortunately, there's a line of stitching that goes up here that is not in good shape. And that's where I'm having some issues. I want to repair that, but that part is inside the magazine pouch. So in order to repair that, I have to remove the magazine pouch. Not what I wanted to do. So, see where my conundrum is? To repair this, I have to remove the magazine pouch, stitch the magazine pouch, this much of it, so all of this has to be stitched down to here. The magazine pouch has to be stitched on. Then I can reattach the magazine pouch to the front of the holster, and then I can continue that stitch line. It's kind of it's a process. It is what it is, and it's what we're going to have to do. So it's a little more time consuming, and that's why I needed to contact my customer and explain to him, I can repair what you got, but to do it right, this is what I need to do, and that's what I'm going to have to do. So there you go. I may pop in a few more times. This is going to be a little longer job than I had originally thought it was going to be, and I'm going to get after it. Alrighty, I've got some Connolly hide care, and that's what my preferred leather treatment is when I'm doing work on old holsters like this. Honestly, I'd like to take something to break down. Looks like they use boot polish on these, which is pretty common to use back in the day. So it looks like it was boot polish, which leaves kind of a waxy residue, and it'd be really nice to take down that waxy residue in a couple of spots here. It looks like it could use a little dye added to it, which isn't a big deal. It's all pretty normal stuff. So denatured alcohol, sometimes we'll take it down. If it's really, really built up, some acetone, very lightly going over it, and you can usually knock that wax off it. Sometimes you'll have to apply a little more dye, and then give it a couple treatments of some Connolly's or whatever you have that you're using, whatever you prefer. But there's a couple of spots on here that you just can't get to when the holsters, you can't get to well when the holster is together. So there's this piece here, your pocket here, and right in here where your magazine pouch is. So I'm going to go ahead and treat these now while it's apart, just because it's a good time to do it. I've got my magazine pouch stitched here. I had to put in a few stitches right up here too. But I've got this line done. It holds just that bottom corner of the magazine pouch on. And then I started this stitch line that goes all the way around. I stopped it here, just kind of clipped my threads together with my needles right here so that it's out of the way, kinda. And now I'm going to start up here and stitch my mag pouch on. And that one, they did a binding stitch. You can tell because of the depression that it left in the top of the magazine pouch here. They did a binding stitch across the top. So I'm going to do the same thing. I want to be clear on something. When I'm doing a repair like this, I'm not trying to hide the repair. I'm trying to keep the repair authentic to the original, with the caveat that I'm not trying to hide it, I'm just trying to match it. I want to make it look somewhat like it hasn't been repaired, but I'm not trying to hide the repair. I just want it to look good and kind of, at a cursory glance, look like it hasn't been repaired. This was originally stitched with white thread, and if I was to make this repair with white thread on an 80-year-old holster, that would look awful. You'd have that white thread on the repair would just stand out like a sore thumb. I'd have to restitch the entire holster to make it look normal. And my hands are turning black. That's from the dye and the wax on the thread. But so, and I'll reiterate this at the end when I'm done, just so that people can understand. I'm not trying to hide the repair. I'm trying to just make it look presentable and make it look authentic without, making it look somewhat its age, while keeping with the original theme of the holster. Or I'm not trying to make it look new again. It's going to look its age, and that's all there is to it, because it's 80 years old. Let's face it. It's had boot polish applied to it, and we can make it look better, but it's never going to look like new again. And that's not what we want it to look like. So, all I'm trying to do is make it look nice again. And that's it. So, I've been starting all my stitching from the inside of the holster. And with that in mind, I'm going to keep doing that. Just because it'll keep everything looking normal. So it's hard for me to show you all of this, so I'm not going to try. I'm just going to go ahead and get her done, as they say, and I'll bring you back later. Another Luger holster in the books. Real quick, dinner's done, so I gotta go eat because I'm a fat guy. I lost 60 pounds this year. I'm pretty proud of myself. Anyway, so I'm going to tell you real quick, like a little bit. I don't try to necessarily hide the fact that it's been repaired. It's okay to know that it's okay to repair these holsters. Repairs are a normal part of life. My car breaks down, it goes to get repaired. Whether I do it or somebody else does it, it has to be repaired. These have to be repaired too. The thread got rotten on this one, it had to be repaired. And that's okay. I don't want it to look super conspicuous that it's been repaired. And that's the only difference. So if I had used the white thread that was originally on it, because these were done with a white thread, which is fine, because the whole holster was done that way. And that would have been okay then. Now, it's had black boot. Look at the stitching here. You can see that it's full of black boot polish. Well, if you look at, here's a good example of my stitching, right along here. I used wax to kind of simulate the boot polish. The part of the boot polish that is going to fill that up and make it look like that is wax. But I used beeswax to wax my thread, and I just went a little heavy on it, that's all. And that's okay. So it kind of looks a little bit like it, but you can still tell that this holster's been repaired just by looking at the stitch holes. They're not caked full of, the holes themselves are not caked full of thread. They're full of boot polish. And that's okay. But the other part that I wanted to let you know is when I get a holster in, when it first comes in, I take pictures of it. I want to know what I got to start with. On my computer, because I'm kind of a geeky guy, I keep a folder for each holster with the customer's name and all that happiness in there. And I'll have a picture of the holster, pictures of when it arrived, pictures during, and pictures when it's finished. And all that is in that folder. And I keep all that. And it's just always there. for reference anytime. I'll have measurements of any parts that I've replaced. So if I have to replace this strap, I'll have those measurements are going to be in there. Now I have other documents that have, the measurements. How long is this belt loop? How wide is it? What's the thickness of leather? This would be a 5 to 6 ounce, I think is what it was, or what it's supposed to be. But all that is, I have books or documents on my computer that have all that in it, as to what the weights are and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of it is stuff that I've gotten from other people, or I have documented myself. I document every holster, and that's part of what I document. So I have all that information, and I keep all that information. So if this customer calls me back and say, hey, remember that holster you did? I can quick look that up on my computer and say, yes, I do, and I know everything that I did to it. When I do the invoice, I do an invoice. It's just not a simple ticket. I'll do an invoice, and on that invoice, I will type out absolutely everything I did to this and the whole process of what I went through with it, down to dyeing the thread. I went heavy on the beeswax to simulate the extra boot polish, all that. It all goes in there. Someday I'll have to show that to you. But that's kind of what I do, and I just thought I'd share that with you. This holster will go out Monday. Today's Friday. We'll go out tomorrow. Go out Monday. And so there you go. Y'all stay safe. God bless. And we'll catch you in the next one. I got another holster that I'm still working on and waiting for a button stud to come in. And we'll get that one done next week. We'll catch you later.